Hey guys, welcome to Becca and the Balance. I'm Becca, and today we're going to be making some crispy granola bars that are going to be perfect for anything you're doing this summer. Car trips, hiking, even flying. They travel really easy and they're super satisfying. But before we get into that, I wanted to encourage you guys to hit the subscribe button. That way you can be notified when I have new videos that drop. And also, if you like the videos of mine that you like, it helps me to know better what will be beneficial for you guys so I can make things that you can actually use. I'm also over on Instagram. I'm over on their day to day. You can see my family and the little garden that we're growing. And it's the same handle, Becca and the Balance. You can also find me on Pinterest. I am also on Facebook, but I'm not over there as much. And you can shop anything you see in this video with the link in my bio that says shop. So let's get started. Okay, guys, so obviously we're going to start off with oatmeal, since that is what you primarily use in granola. I use the quick oats because those just work better. And we're going to start off with 4 cups of those. I really like this recipe. I've been making this since my son was very, very small, and he loves granola. And now that he is a big teenager and hungry all the time, they're a really satisfying snack for him. If you're looking for other satisfying snacks, I do have a recipe for energy bites. They're softer and they've got a little bit of chocolate in them, but they do need to be refrigerated. And so this is a better snack if you're looking for something to take on a road trip that you don't want to have to refrigerate. So that's 4 cups of the quick oats to start. Now, I want a side note here. Not everybody likes nuts in their granola. So usually I would add slivered almonds here. If you don't have any nuts on hand, or like heaven forbid you have a nut allergy, you can just put in another 1.5 cups of your oats. I'm actually going to use some candied pecans that I made for some other things later today. And I'm going to chop up a 1.5 cups of those to put in here. It's going to add a little bit more of like a cinnamony, sweetie spice texture. I think it'll be really good. But if you don't have any nuts on hand, just add an additional 1.5 cups of oats. So that'd be 5.5 cups of oats total. So I made some candied pecans earlier this week, and I will share the recipe with you guys at some point here. It's really easy and they're really satisfying, really crispy. Look, so good. Okay, so I'm going to chop these up really, really fine so they mix in nicely. Okay, so these are all chopped up. We're just going to dump them into the bowl. And now we're going to add 1/2 cup of brown sugar. This is so fresh. I just poured this in here when I was refilling these earlier today. You know how sometimes you get in there and it's like hard and crunchy? I've seen people put a marshmallow in there. I don't know. You'll have to let me know if you do that to keep it soft. I've never found the best way to keep it soft. I just kind of use it up before it goes bad. Tip that I did not know until I was much older is that brown sugar is just white sugar mixed with molasses. I can't remember the ratios, but I'll put it on here for you. But so if you're ever in need of brown sugar and you have molasses on hand, somebody in my comments thought that was crazy. Who has molasses on hand? I have molasses on hand, but I was out of brown sugar. You just mix a little bit of it in there. You could probably use it in your food processor, but I just did it by hand and it works perfectly. All right, so we've got that 1/2 cup of brown sugar. And I keep mine in this mason jar because it's so much easier to scoop out of than it is to try and get it off the little pour spigot on the salt. You know what I'm talking about? So a lot of my stuff, I also keep my cornstarch in a mason jar. I just find them so much easier to get into. So that's 1/2 teaspoon there. And then 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon also. Ooh, look at that powder. I'm getting low on this guy. I do have littler spices, but I keep this big cinnamon one because I feel like I end up using it a lot in my recipes, but then it gets low. So I should probably switch it to those littler jars. Okay, so now you're just gonna mix this all up as it is so everything is just evenly combined before we add in our liquid. This smells so good. I think it's the pecans and the cinnamon together, but it smells very good. Is it pecan or pecan where you are? Because I say pecan down here and I kind of get bad looks. I think it's supposed to be pecan in the South. Everybody has their preferences. Okay, so you just want to get it really mixed together. And it's at this point that I go ahead and preheat my oven. We're going to turn it on to 300 degrees. So now that this is all mixed together, we're going to head over to the stove and we're going to melt all of our wet ingredients together. Okay, so we are going to start off with 1/2 cup of coconut oil. We're going to melt it over a lower heat in a pan on your stovetop. I use the coconut oil cup to put the honey in because then the honey will come out that much easier. Okay, so now we're going to do that 1/2 cup of honey. Again, using that coconut oil cup because it will just make the honey come out that much easier. Okay, so there's that 1/2 cup of honey. mixed with the cinnamon that I'm smelling in the air. It smells so good. So grab a whisk and get those mixed together, about as good as you're going to get considering it's coconut oil. And then once those are mixed in, you're going to add 1.5 tablespoons of cocoa powder. At that stage, if you wanted to put in like a tablespoon of peanut butter, because I love peanut butter, I'm going to add one. You don't have to. But if you wanted to add like a tablespoon of peanut butter or some other nut butter you have, that would be the time to do it. Just like 1 tablespoon, it won't change the texture that much, and it adds a really good flavor. So I'm going to add some peanut butter to mine, but you don't have to yours. They'll still turn out perfectly. You're just looking to get them all warmed up. So you can kind of see how my honey is still separate from the oil. It's just not quite the same temperature as the oil is yet. So just keep on mixing it, it'll get there. So now we're going to add 1.5 tablespoons of this Hershey's cocoa powder. So we're adding such a small amount for the honey and oil that we have. It just adds enough of a sweet texture, but it's not a chocolate flavor. So I wouldn't say we're making chocolate granola bars. I never think that when I'm eating them. It's not a strong chocolate flavor. It's just enough that it adds just a little bit of extra flavor on the end, but it's not a chocolatey chocolate flavor. Now, if you really like chocolate, once these are cooling, I would add some chocolate chips to it before you give them a good squish, because this definitely doesn't add a huge chocolate flavor. Okay, now just whisk all that together. And then I'm going to grab my peanut butter. And since I'm already adding nuts to it, I'm going to go with a smooth peanut butter instead of a chunky one. And we're just looking to melt these together. We don't need them to boil or anything. And we're peanut butter lovers in our family. So peanut butter is always a good idea for us. So mine was starting to simmer, so I shut it off. It definitely does not need to do that. So I'll probably leave mine off now for the remainder of it, just to get everything all mixed together. There's plenty of heat on there. You can see the peanut butter melting. Okay, so once you add the peanut butter and the cocoa together, it should look like this. Everything combined. You're still going to see a little bit of that oil on the bottom. That's normal. We're going to just put all that in with our granola now. Just pour the whole thing in there and stir it up. So let's go back to the counter. Okay, so this is all done. Smells delicious. We're just going to pour it in with our dry mixture, and we're just going to stir, stir, stir till everything's combined. Make sure you get everything out of the bottom. Perfect. There we go. Now just start stirring. So you can make these in bars, like those crispy little ones, the green package we're all used to. Or you can make them in little bite-sized ones. I'm going to make a mix of both. Sometimes I want a granola bar. Sometimes I like just a little snack bite. So we're going to make a little mix of both. This is a very simple recipe. If you're not a very ambitious baker, this is something really satisfying and easy to make. And you really can't do a lot to mess it up. It's not like something more challenging, waiting for bread to rise and things. You just need the time to run your oven, because these do need to cook in the oven for about an hour. Just want to make sure you really scoop up from the bottom on there. Make sure you get all that coated. Okay, so I'm going to get an 11 by 13 pan with a piece of parchment paper over it. We're going to pour it on there. These are going to go in the oven.
Hey guys, I put the wrong time on here. So it's 300 degrees for 40 minutes, rotating the granola every 10 minutes. So again, 300 degrees for 40 minutes, rotating the granola every 10 minutes.
We're going to take it out, and then you're going to use either another pan that fits on top or just a spatula, and you're just going to press down the granola bars as hard as you can, and then you're just going to leave them there. You're going to give them about 5 to 10 minutes. You get your knife, and you can score them into the bars or into the little bites, but you're just going to leave them there after that till they cool. That's how they're going to harden into that crispy, delicious bar that we want. Okay, so there we go. Just pour it on there. It came out really easy because there's so much coconut oil in there. Okay. And then we're just going to move it around, get it all even. The thickness that you want for your bars, you can go with a different size pan. If you prefer them to be a little bit thinner, the cook time is going to remain the same. You're just going to have a bigger pan so that when you press it out, when you're all said and done, there'll be a thinner bar. I like mine with like a little bit of thickness to it. So I put them in a little bit smaller pan. It makes it trickier when you're flipping it in the oven so that you don't make a big mess, but I like them a little bit thicker. And that's it. So we're just going to put them in the oven. And I would put them on the middle rack. If you get them on the top, you're probably going to get a little bit crispier than you want. Okay, so just mix it up. Make sure every piece has moved to a different spot and turned over. And then put it back in. Okay, so those granola bars only have a few minutes left. When they come out, you're going to put them on a cooling rack or on your stovetop. And then you can either use a spatula, or I'm going to probably use one of my pans with a piece of parchment paper between the two, just like this. And you're just going to press down on the bars as they are. So the granola will still be pliable. You'll be able to move it around, but the goal is to get it squished and compacted as hard as you can. And then you're just going to kind of leave it for like 5 to 10 minutes. Then you can come through and score it. So decide ahead of time if you want to have bars like in those green packages that we have at the store, or if you want like little bite-sized ones. As I said before, I'm going to make a mix of both. Depending on the mood everyone's in, they'll grab what they want. And also, when they're all said and done, they'll still be warm once you've pressed them down. So if you wanted to add maybe some mini chocolate chips to the top, or even like peanut butter chips, they'll kind of melt in there just a little bit. So press it all down. You can add those chips, just sprinkle them throughout. I'm not going to add any of that today, but you definitely can. And then just leave them and let them cool completely, and they will be perfect. Okay, so you will notice the color has gotten a little bit darker. That's normal, it's supposed to happen. Now, being careful because the pan is hot, you can use a spatula. If it sticks too bad, you can spray a little non-stick cooking spray on there. Otherwise, you're just gonna press this down, making sure it's evenly spread out as hard as you can. Remember, you want them to be, all similar, just like you would at a store. So kind of evenly distribute all the granola and press it down as hard as you can. Okay, by putting a piece of parchment paper down and kind of sandwiching it and pressing that. I think we got it. So see how nice and flat those are? There we go. So we're gonna give that like 5 minutes, and then we're gonna use a knife to just kind of score them into the shape we want. We're not gonna start digging them up. We're gonna let them stay as they are, but we're just gonna gently cut through to give them the shape that we want so that when they cool just like that. It's been about 5 minutes. Get a good knife, and we're just gonna score these. Remember, the goal isn't to scoop them up and get them out of there. We're just making little presses in here so that when it's time, you don't have to break them and have them crumble. So get all the way down to the bottom on there. And again, I'm going to do half bars and half little bite-sized ones. Now, after I do this, I like to press it down one more time. And then they have to cool completely. Okay, so there's my rows of bars. And then for these little ones, I'm going to make them a little bit wider, but shorter altogether. Okay, so little bite-sized fellas there. So you can see some of that's kind of lifting up. So we're going to press those back down. Okay, and then the bars, I'll do these longer pieces here. There we go. Not before I give them one more press. I can actually see it going down that much more. So a second press is not a bad idea. And we've scored them. So they should be easy to break apart. I may rescore them just for good measure. Now, if you start to score these and they're just falling apart, you may have started a little too soon. Give it a few more minutes and then come back to them and try scoring them again. What you want is you want to be able to cut into them and have them kind of clearly be able to separate, but not fall apart, but not have to cram the knife in there. It's a good balance there. So 5 to 10 minutes should be about it. Okay, so we're gonna leave those now and let them cool completely, and then we'll check back on them. Okay, so these are totally cool now, and we can break them apart and give them a try. This is why I usually like to use the parchment paper. Makes it a lot easier to lift it out. There we go. Okay. And they should, if you scored them right, they should just break right apart, just like that. Okay. All right, so here is that bar. Listen to that crunch. Perfect. Give it a try. So good. And here's what those little bite-sized pieces look like. I was telling you about the 2 different sizes. They are perfect. If you guys have any questions, make sure you comment below and make sure that you like and subscribe. And check back later this week. We're going to be making cinnamon rolls. Thanks for watching and make sure you like and subscribe for more.